a video on a baked yogurt cheesecake. Obviously, it's not cheesecake because it hasn't got any cheese in it, but it's got yogurt in it. So, but that's kind of what we're aiming at. It's pretty straightforward. It has to be thick yogurt, so it's like a Greek yogurt. If you can't get really thick yogurt, what you can do is you can strain your yogurt through a cheesecloth, and then it'll get rid of some of the water out of it and it'll thicken it up. So 500 grams of thick yogurt, 3 eggs, we've separated them into yolks and whites. We've got 75 grams of fine sugar is going to go in with the yolks, and 75 grams of fine sugar is going to go in with the whites. We're going to whip those up. We need to whip them separately. And then we've also got 50 grams of fine cornmeal. Doesn't have to be cornmeal. There are alternatives, but it needs to be kind of fine. So this is just like fine cornmeal. Fine cornmeal's fine, works well, but it can be fine semolina, stroke polenta. That works fine as well, and it can also be corn flour as well. All 3 of those are fine to work with this. It doesn't really matter. They don't particularly taste that dissimilar from each other. It's not about the flavour, it's more about what they're going to do, and they're going to help set the cheesecake. I keep calling it a cheesecake. It's a yogurt cake, but that doesn't sound right. So it's a cheesecake. So they're there for that. You can't use wheat flour like you would make turn into pastry, or bread flour. It's because that needs a certain type of cooking. And all we're really going to do with this is we're going to set it in the oven and get it up to a temperature. We're going to and set it rather than more than cook it or bake it. So it's going to cook 150 degrees. So what we need to do is we need to whip up the egg whites, and then we're going to whip up the egg yolks. You can't whip the egg, and to cut down on washing up, if we whip the egg whites first with that amount, with the 75 grams of sugar, then we can use the same whisk in with the egg yolks. If we whip the egg yolks first with that amount, with its amount of sugar, they'll get nice and fluffy, but because of the fat content of the yolks, the egg whites won't whip up to a stiff peak. So we need to whip the egg whites first, and then we whip up the egg yolks. You can do it the other way around. You just need to wash the beaters afterwards. So I will whip them up. You don't need to see that on camera because it's kind of quite boring watching things whip up. So I'll whip them up, and then we'll come back when they are both whipped and ready, and then it'll just be a case of combining. Right, so egg yolks and sugar are whipped up, and it's come nice and light and fluffy. And then we've also done the same with the egg whites. They are now at the stage where you can turn them upside down and they don't slop out of the bowl. Next, we need to mix the what was it? What did I use? Was it I need to look. The fine cornmeal. I forget. I should have known. The fine cornmeal into the yogurt, like that. I haven't bothered washing the blades because it's fine, and we don't like washing up, so we just need to gently. So we just need to combine that, and then it's a case of folding things in. So we'll get rid of those. We're going to fold the egg yolks into the yogurt first, and then we're going to fold the egg whites in. What's going to happen is we're going to lose some, when we start folding things together, we're going to lose volume in, we're going to lose some of that air that we've whipped into them. So there's more air in the egg whites, so it's better to sacrifice the egg yolks just to make this mixture just a little bit looser, so we don't lose all the air when we fold things in. If we add everything in together all in one go, we'd lose a lot more air and we'd lose volume, which we don't want to do. We've whipped all the air into it. We want to keep that air. So yolks in to the yogurt mixture like that. Metal spoon, because a wooden spoon it's too rough. Even though it feels smooth, the roughness of the wood will also destroy air bubbles, which is not what we want to do. So that can go in there, like that. Fold these together. That's going in pretty easy. Still nice and light, and then we go in with the egg whites. And then I've got a container. It's a round snap form tin, and I've just measured it, and it's 23 centimeters. It's about 9 inches, which should be about a good size. I'm guessing, I'm hoping. It's a while since I've made this, so hopefully it'll all fit in. If it doesn't, I'll say what size container then you need to be using. But this is not the home of exact things. Most of the time I'm just faffing. Yeah, it looks about the right kind of volume. So fold it all in together. Like that. Getting right down to the bottom as well, and right down the sides. And then when it looks like it's almost all folded in, then we can transfer it to the mould, the baking thingamajig, snap form tin. What I've done, don't need that anymore. I've lined it with some baking parchment. You can, if you want to make it in a pastry case, you can make a pastry case and bake it blind and then bake it in the oven inside the pastry case, but I don't want to do that. So I've just got some baking parchment, screwed it up, and then it easily fits into all the corners of the tin, and it'll give it a nice look when we kind of pull it out. It's also cheaper to do it that way as well, and easier. So a few ingredients, not that expensive, a lot easier to kind of do it this way, and it'll look kind of rustic as well. I have seen there's lots of similar type of things out and about at the moment, and people want to burn, it's like a burnt yogurt type of cake. They're not particularly nice, if I'm honest. So this is just like a set yogurt cheesecake, and pretty straightforward one as well. So that in there, that's good sized tin. So just that over there. Scrape out as much of this as we can, and then into an oven, 150 degrees, just so it sets really. So we're going to treat it more like a custard than cheesecake. I don't want any kind of colour. You'll see when it comes out, but I don't want to have it on a temperature where it starts taking on colour or start burning. Although, I mean, burning things on top, it kind of looks kind of pretty, and it's a bit on form with trends and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't particularly taste nice. So, probably could have got away with a smaller tin, so it won't be as tall, but that'll be fine. So, smooth it, don't have to smooth it down too much. We just want to make sure that it's even on the top so it cooks evenly, and then finger, because they are the most useful things that we have. And then this wants to go in the oven for 150 degrees, 160 degrees, fan oven on, and I'm not entirely sure how long it's going to take because it's kind of a general process, but I'm thinking probably about 40 minutes, but I'll correct when it comes out of the oven. So the cheesecake has had about 50 minutes, an hour. It's just, and it's, as you can see, it's solid. It's not, there's no kind of like the center is cooked. I've stuck a prong in it just to make sure, but as you shake it, it all moves together, so there's no liquidity left in that. So it rises a little bit and then it falls back down a bit. These cracks are nice looking, if I'm honest. I certainly like things that sometimes look a little bit rustic. So we'll let it go cold, and then we can cut into it. You can eat it now if you want. It's just be better cold, and the flavour will improve, and certainly would improve if it was left overnight. Using yogurt, you kind of think that's kind of quite a bizarre thing, but there's kind of like a nice citrus taste to this, which you don't get from a cheesecake. So whereas a cheesecake you would have to add something acidic to it, like lemons or oranges or limes or something like that, because of the acidity of the yogurt, you get like a nice fruity acidity to it. So it's quite a delicious thing to eat, to say the least. But anyway, so we'll let that go cold, and then we'll cut into it, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like. But it's pretty straightforward, and it's dead easy. It's pretty it's dead easy, pretty straightforward to make, and it's delicious for what it is, you know. But there we go. So just cool, and then we'll cut into it. Right, it's cooled, and let's have a look. You just got to be careful when pulling the paper back, because it wants to come away with the paper, so you just need to be a little bit careful. But let's be honest, these little bits licking off the paper is a nice thing to do. So, nice portion. I reckon we'll get, what's that? 16, no, not 16 portions. 8 good sized portions out of this. So not kind of a bad yield at all. Cut there, cut there. Another one there, and then we'll have a look on the inside. It's really soft, so careful with the paper. Maybe should have picked something better than my knife to pull it out. But how can we see that? There we go. Bring it a little bit closer. You see, and there we go. It's lovely, nice and fluffy, and tastes not how you imagine it would. So if you that with a few nice berries and a bit of compote is absolutely delicious. I'll make a version in a pastry case as well. It's just that I didn't want to have to make. I've got enough to do today. I didn't want to have to make pastry as well. So, but dead easy to make. And absolutely delicious and cheap as well. I think that's it. Yeah, so yogurt cheesecake. Yeah, there you go. That was a bit of a rubbish ending. I need to say more. So, think, if you want to know how it tastes, think like a lemon tart type of thing. But it's a bit spongy. But not spongy as in like a sponge. But, so you'll hear like that, you can hear the air bubbles breaking. It tastes like a lemon tart, even though there's no lemon in it, and it's just down to the acidity of the yogurt. And it's difficult to describe, but you wouldn't think a cooked yogurt would taste that way. And if you were to make a cheese, you couldn't just add milk or cream to the eggs in the end, because you wouldn't kind of get any kind of flavour from that. But there's loads of flavour in yogurt, and it's a delicate kind of flavour, and it picks it up really well. It doesn't look impressive. Well, it kind of does. It looks nice, but it tastes. It's one of those things that tastes a lot better than it actually looks. You just kind of think, it just looks like a bit of a flat type of custard, but it's absolutely delicious as that. It's really nice, and not something that you would imagine putting together, but give it a go and you'll be surprised. I'll do a version in a pastry case, but you just make a pastry case and then bake it blind and then cook the filling in it. You could cook it at a higher temperature and make it brown on top, which tends to be the trend at the moment, but I don't like burnt things. Yeah, it just no, not for me. But this is delicious, and you should give it a go. And you can look at, see, that's nice as well. Look at that, that's lovely, is that? But anyway, there you go, yogurt cheesecake.